Okay, good morning, class. Today is Monday, October 26th. We are going over multiplication. Remember, last week we started learning all the strategies we could do, which is equal groups. What's another one we learned last week? Kelsey?
Skip counting or division.
Skip counting, good. We use the number line to skip count also. What else? What's the rows and columns, where we have all the rows and the columns that we make? Y'all remember what that's called? Aaliyah?
Array.
Array, good. Anything else? Pictorial model. Pictorial model is just where you draw the picture to represent the problem. Can y'all think of anything else? Tavea? Repeated addition, good. Okay, so what we're going to practice today is looking at a multiplication table and how you can use it. Those of you at home should have gotten one that looks like this. It's laminated, that way you can write on it with a dry erase marker at home. So get out your dry erase marker and your laminated multiplication chart that looks like this. There is two sides. One of them is empty, and then one of them is all filled in. So what we're going to do is just look at some patterns and see how many facts you guys probably already know, okay, without even having to really memorize it, okay? Now, how do we use this? Let's look at how we use that, because this can be an important tool to help you start memorizing your facts at home. I know you're probably thinking, why do I have to memorize it? We just learned all those strategies to work it out and get the answer, like drawing a picture or drawing an array, okay? But how many of you would feel so much better if you could just know your fact right off the bat without having to do all that extra work? Yes, I agree. It's going to make your life so much simpler if you can memorize these facts with fluency. That means you can do it quickly without having to think or count or add up numbers in your head, okay? This is going to help you for the rest of your schooling, for the rest of your life probably. So this is an important skill that you need to learn. So be practicing at home. It doesn't take very long to get this out and be practicing. You could do it by yourself. You could do it with a sibling. So go ahead and be working on that at home, okay? So let's look at how we can use this multiplication chart. Okay, so what I would do if I want to know, let's just say the fact for 1 times 4. I'm going to start at this 1 and go over to the 4. So 1 times 4 would be 4. Okay, so let's look at another one. If I want to know the fact for, or the product for 3 times 7, I'm going to go down to the 3. And then follow it over until I get to the 7. You see the 7 up top? So I see 3 times 7. They meet right here at the 21. So 3 times 7 is 21. Okay, so let's look at another one. If I do 6 times 10, where should I start? It's funny nobody in the class can answer me because we just had to pause the video because no one was paying attention. Who can tell me? Nobody can. So we start at the 6 and we go over to the 10 and I see the answer is 60. Okay. Now what if I want the answer for 7 times 7? I go to the 7 here. Follow it and stop at the 7 here. So what's 7 times 7? 49. Okay. 5 times 4. So I want you in class to find 5 times 4 by looking at the board. Start at the 5.
20.
Start at the 5 and then we go over to where?
This is 20.
The 4, good. So it would be 20. Okay. Now I'm going to be calling out problems, and I want you to practice using the multiplication chart. What would be the answer to 8 times 3? 8 times 3.
3.
Bryson? 24. So explain to me how you figured out that that was 24.
On the side, I went to the 8.
On the side, he went to the 8.
And then the top row,
Top row, he went to the 3.
I went to the 3, and then I went down.
And he went down.
They met at 24.
They met at 24. Very good. Okay. Now I want you to find the answer to 9 times 5. 9 times 5. Kelsey?
45.
Very good. So explain to me how we would do that, Kelsey, or how you did that.
So you would stop. So you would, I got it because you stop at the number that you tell the person to get, and then you just count it.
You just count it? Okay, so you went over to you started at the 9 and counted over 5? Is that what you did?
Yes.
Okay, so we start at the 9 because I said 9 times 5, and she went over to the 5th square, which is 45. Good. Okay, what is 10 times 12? Last one, and then we're going to start looking at some patterns. 10 times 12. What is it, Evangeline? Good. So we start at the 10, right? And I'm going to go over to the very end on my chart, which is 120. Okay. Now, I want you to be looking at your chart and see if you can notice anything that's a pattern or that sticks out to you while I'm erasing this. So look at your chart and see if you can see any patterns. You see a pattern, Kaylee? Where?
Like, let's say 1. You're just going to be counting by 1. 2s, you're counting by 2s. 3s, you're counting by 3s. 4s, you're counting by 4s.
Okay, very good. She says on the row with the 1s, they're just counting by 1s. So, you guys already know all of these facts. 1 times 1, 1 times 2, 1 times 3, 1 times 4, all the way across. And if you notice, it also goes down 1 times 2, or 2 times 1, 3 times 1, 4 times 1, 5 times 1. Okay, so what's anything times 1?
1, the same number.
The same number, not 1, but anything times 1 is going to be that number. And it's called the identity property. It keeps its identity. Okay? Now we don't have zeros on here, but does anybody know if I multiply by 0, what would that answer be? Evangeline? 0. So all of those facts you already know. 0, anything times 0 is going to be 0. So Gregory, if I say what's 50 times 0, what would the answer be? 0. Good. Okay, another pattern. She said that on the 2s, it's just counting by 2s. Raise your hand if you know how to skip count by 2s. Okay, good. So if you know how to skip count by 2s, then you know all your 2s facts. Okay, so let's practice that. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. And that goes across also. Okay, so we know all of these and all of these. Okay, she also pointed out, Kaylee did, that on the 3s, it's just skip counting by 3s. Raise your hand if you know how to skip count by 3s.
That's hard. I don't know.
It's a little bit harder, but I think we could get it down pretty quickly if we practice it. Okay, so let's practice together. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30, 33, 36. Y'all need to stay together. Okay, so skip counting by threes is all they're doing. If you don't know how to skip count by 3, then you're just adding 3, right? It's repeating plus 3, plus 3, plus 3. Okay, now let's go to the 5s. What do you notice about the 5s? Okay, thank you, Evangeline, for raising your hand. What is it doing? You're counting by 5s. Raise your hand if you can count by 5s. Okay, so there's all the facts that you know too. You know your 5s because you can skip count by 5s. So we know all of this row and all of the 5s going across. Okay, I'm going to shade these in so you can see how many you probably already know without even having to practice.
That's so easy.
Okay. We know all of our 1s. While I'm shading these in, I want you guys to look again for another pattern that you know without even having to memorize. Kaylee, I said look, not shout it out. Okay. Okay, and I went ahead and left the 3s because we don't seem so confident on skip counting by 3s. So we'll keep practicing that. But all of these other ones, look at how many we've already shaded in. Okay? All right, while I was shading, what other pattern did you notice, Bryson? Sure, go up on the board and show me the pattern you saw.
You'll start at 1 and you'll end at 12. You can say 12 up there.
Okay, yes, we're going to 12 because this is a 12 by 12 multiplication grid or multiplication chart. I meant for the products though. Did y'all see anything on the mat that looked like a pattern and was easy for you to see? Evangeline? The 10s. What did you notice about the 10s? Skip counting by 10s. We should be able to do that pretty easy, right?
Yeah, that's 10s and 11s are easy peasy.
Okay, so let's shade those in and look. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100.
110, 120.
Okay, just adding 10 each time. We also know the 10s going across. No, I'm just showing you how much you already know, and there's not going to be a very big section left over once we shade all the ones that we're pretty confident in, or that we see a pattern in. What else do you notice about this multiplication chart? Kelsey?
The 11s?
The 11s. Let's look at the pattern going down. I see 11, 22, 33, 44, 55, 66, 77. For the 8s, it's 88. 9s, it's 99. 10s, 110. 11, 121. 12, 132. But basically, until you get to 99, what do you notice?
They're all the same number.
It's just the double digit number, right? That's 9 and 9, 8 and 8, 7, 7, okay? So if I ask you what's 7 times 11, you could tell me, right?
Yes.
What is it?
It's 7 times 11 is 77.
Okay. I need somebody else to tell me what is 5 times 11.
55.
Kaylee?
55.
55. Okay, now without looking. What is 8 times 11?
88.
88. What is 2 times 11?
22.
22. So you guys already know your 11s. So we're going to shade that in.
Okay. That's a window or something?
It's not going to make a pattern with all the shading. I'm just shading so you can see how this doesn't have to be difficult. Don't make it harder than it is. Some of these have patterns and you already know them without having to memorize. It can be overwhelming if you look at this whole multiplication chart and think to yourself, wow, I've got to memorize all of those. But if you start shading in the ones you already know, it's not so bad, is it?
No.
Okay, do y'all see any other patterns? I can see one more that is pretty easy. If you look at the 9s, I want you to look at the 9s going either across or follow the 9s going down and see if you can see a pattern there. Whoops. Okay, so the pattern for the 9s, we said if you look at the 1s place, it's going down by 1. It has a 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And then it starts back over with a 9 and then an 8 in the 1s place. Okay? Then we saw that the 10s place has, well, this would just be a 0 here next to the 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then there's 2 of them, 9, and then 10 for the last one. Okay, so it's just going in order, right? 1's place goes down. 10's place goes up. Another thing I noticed is these 2 digits will add up to 9. What's 1 plus 8? 1 plus 8 is 9. 2 plus 7? 9. 3 plus 6? 9. 4 plus 5? 5 plus 4? 6 plus 3? 7 plus 2? 8 plus 1? 9 plus 0? 9. So all the way until you get to the 9 times 10, those 2 digits add up to 9. So if you get your answer is 52 for 9 times 6, you'll know you're wrong because 5 plus 2 is not 9. It's what? It's 7. Okay, so the digits in the product for your 9s always add up to 9. Okay, can y'all remember that? The digits in the 9s products always add up to 9. Okay, until you get to 11 and 12, then they get to where they don't add up. Okay, so I think y'all can remember that pattern?
Yes.
Then we can shade all of those in. All of the 9s. Going across and going down. Now I want you to look, once I shade these in, how many are left? Not very many, right?
Yeah.
We have a few right here. But that can be accomplished pretty quickly if we learn how to skip count by 3s a little bit better. Then we can shade all of these in and we can shade all of these in. Okay, we have some of the 4s, some of the 6s, 7s, 8s, and 12s. Not very much when you really start looking at what you know, right?
Oh, that's easy peasy. I know my 3s now.
Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to flip it over to the blank side. And we're going to practice filling some in. So I want you guys to start filling in the 9s with the trick we've just learned. Okay? So the first one, 1 times 9 would be what?
9.
9. Now I want you to try to fill in the rest. Okay, so let's look at what you should have gotten for your 9 facts, trying out that pattern we learned. So I'm looking at the ones placed first. It goes down, so it would be 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and then we said it started back over here, 9, 8. Okay? Now for the tens place. Are there any tens on the first one?
No.
So it's just a 0, imaginary 0. And then it becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And this is where it kind of is just skipping by 9s. 99 and then 10. Okay? Let's chart one more time going across. To me, it's not as easy to see going across, but all you have to do is take this and copy it over to this side going across. So the first box should be what? 9. 18.
27.
Good.
36. 45. 54. 63. 72. 81. 90.
Okay. Now we know how to fill in a multiplication chart. Let's go ahead and do the ones and the tens. Fill those in on your own. Okay, let's go ahead and finish filling in what we know because we know how to skip count and we know the patterns. Okay? For the ones, we talked about how we could fill those in super easy, right? Because all you're doing is just counting by ones. So it would be 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then you would do the same thing going down.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11.
Okay? Now we can fill in the twos. So we're going to skip count by 2. So it would be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. Okay? Now you can do the twos going across. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. Okay, what other one was super easy for us to fill in?
5.
The 5. So I'm going to start on the 5 column and skip count by 5s. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. Okay, and we can do the same thing going across, right? 5, 10,
15, 20, 25, 30,
35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. Good. Anything else? No, that's good. Okay. The tens. All right, let's do the tens. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. Same thing going across. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. Okay? So we're going to continue practicing this every day, okay? We will get this out after you finish your warm-up. You can practice filling this in on your own, looking at patterns, skip counting. So if we wanted to go ahead and try the 3s real quick before we sign off. I'm going to practice counting by 3s, but if I can't or I get stuck on 1, then I'm just going to add 3, right? Because that's the same thing. So let's start by going Y'all want to go down or you want to go across?
Across.
Okay, so I have 3, 6. What comes next?
36.
9. What comes next? 12. Good. We're just counting by threes. What comes after 15? 18. 21. 24. 27, 30. This would be 33. And 36. Okay, now let's look at the threes going down. We have 3, 6, 9. All we have to do is copy what we already wrote. 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30, 33, 36. Okay? So the threes are going to be our next step that we're going to practice skip counting by and get better at that, okay? So let's do it one more time together. Try to do it without looking at your multiplication chart, but if you need to take a peek, go ahead. And everybody say it with me and stay together, okay? Ready? Set, go. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30, 33, 36. Okay, good job. Okay, so now what we're going to do for our assignment, we need to practice a little bit more on arrays. Okay, so those of you in Seesaw, you will get an assignment that looks like just a blank sheet of grid paper. What we're going to do is come up with 6 different problems and practice doing arrays again. Okay, so I want to do 6 problems. So remember, if my problem is 4 times 6, I need to have 4 rows of 6. Okay? You could also think of this as an area model. So area, when we find area of shapes, it's the squares on the inside. Okay? So we can say we're practicing arrays. When all the squares are put together, we also call them area models. Okay, so let me show you an example of what your paper will look like. We can pick any problem. Let's say I want to do 4 times 6. I've already said that. I want you to write the problem in the boxes with your product. And then we're going to shade in the boxes nice and neat. So how many rows should I have for 4 times 6? Kelsey?
4 rows.
4 rows. So I'm going to shade in 4 boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are my rows. Remember, rows go across. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows that I'm making. And I need to put how many inside the row? 6. Okay, so now I already have 1 box that counts. So I do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and now I just need to fill all of them in. And then how would I get my answer if I don't know what 4 times 6 is?
You would count them in all.
Count all of the squares that we just shaded in, okay? Y'all's is going to be much neater, but I'm just trying to save time and show you quickly. Okay, so these are your rows. 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. And 6 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? Any questions on your assignment today? And then make sure you put your product. 24. If we had counted all those squares, it would have been 24.
Can you do any problem?
You can do any problem, but let's make sure it's not too big. I would probably say 6 and under, because if you do too big, you're going to run out of space on this grade paper, okay? So what I would do next is skip a couple of spaces, write your next one here, and make sure you have enough blocks before you start shading in, okay? All right, any other questions before we start? Evangeline?
Can we use those dice?
You can use the dice, yes. So in class we like to roll dice to get our factors. At home, if you want to use dice that you have lying around, that's fine. You can do that too. Just make sure you're not repeating the same one. Don't do 4 times 6 again if you've already done it. Can you do 6 times 4?
Yes.
Yes, because your array would look different. It wouldn't look the same as this one, okay?